politician. You can call them politicians. Anyway.
Alec. So we're going to have a share tonight on something that is a bit more difficult in relating to it. It's not difficult to understand the words, but in adapting one's perspectives, it's difficult. But the reward for it is a very big one. It allows you to live quite differently. So what we're going to do is have a discussion from a couple of seekers on God, because it's all very well to talk in terms of learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, and we should learn Torah and do mitzvahs whether you think about God or you don't. In fact, there are many jokes about Misnagdim who are Boki in Shas and have no concept of God at all. In Chabad, all our learning tends to be focused on your and my private relationship with our God. And in order to build that relationship, it is a foundation of our learning system that one becomes familiar with some of the notions that are available. Now, of course, Hashem you can't discover him where he doesn't want to be found in terms of Giloi, in terms of revelation. However, there are clues, and there are pathways to understanding and building this relationship. Now, before we go, I just want to raise a logical tension with you. And we've talked about this before, but you won't understand a word of this year unless you get your mind around this. We have a pasuk that everybody knows when Torah begins, Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim ve'es haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. We have another pasuk that Ein oid milvadoi. There's nothing else but godliness. So the fundamental tension and problem that you have to start with, and I'm not suggesting that you solve it, but you have to start with it, is to understand that appears to be an entirely contradictory pair of statements. Either Hashem did something on the 6 days of creation and created the heavens and the earth, or Ein oed milvadoi, there's nothing else but him. Either he created something or he didn't. If he created something, then how can you say Ein oed milvadoi, there's nothing else but Hashem? If he didn't create something, are you saying that the Torah is lying in the Sheshis Yemei Bereshis, in the 6 days of creation? So that logical tension we have to live with, and it has to be given sense, because we know there are no contradictions in Torah. There is no contradiction in the wisdom of Hashem. So if we have a pasuk which says that in the beginning Hashem created, bara, created, Hashemayim v'oretz, the heavens and the earth, something was created. If there is a something, is that something other than godliness? Because if it is, how can you say Ein oed milvadoi? So I hope everyone understands the issue, and we're going to go. The Rebbe's going to take us through an examination of those two things, and I'm going to take you to the very end straight away for a moment to just understand this. How does the ordinary religious Jew, well-informed religious Jew, reconcile these two apparent opposites with a concept which is called Das Elyon and Das Taktoin. Das Elyon means Hashem's perspective. Das Taktoin means our perspective. So from Hashem's perspective, there's nothing else. There's Hashem. Whether Hashem is manifesting himself through nature or whether he's manifesting himself through lack of nature or in space or in a molecular structure of a human cell, what's the difference? From his perspective, it's all godliness. From our perspective, the whole key to making the game work is that we live with the illusion that we're separate. Separate from God, separate from each other. In reality, of course, nothing is separate because it's all godliness. That we think it's separate, that gives birth to a whole lot of energetic thrusts like ego, self-importance, argument, machloikus. All of these things can only exist if a person has a vision of separateness. And yet we learn, Einoi Milvadoi, that there's nothing else but Hashem, therefore there's nothing separate. So you need to carry those two apparent opposites by understanding that one is a godly perspective and one is a human perspective. And we're not being asked to trade our human perspective for a godly perspective. Why? Because we're not God. We're human beings. But we have to be able to understand this dynamic, otherwise you can't understand Hashem at all, which we really can't, but we've got words that do. And you can't understand you and your need for your relationship with God, because every Jew has a need for a relationship with God. We all have our private need for that. So l'chaim. So I'm going to take you through Psukim, through two Psukim from as Elohim, Einoid Milvadoi, and there's nothing else. So we're going to come back to that. About 5 lines later, or in fact, that was Posuk Lamed Hey, and in Posuk Lamed Tes, which is 4 verses later, it says another very well-known thing which we say every day in our davening from Aleinu, V'yidaito ha'yoim, that you know today, V'hashiva says levavka, and you take it to your heart, ki Hashem hu Elohim, that Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is Shem Elohim, B'shamayim mamal, in the heavens above, V'al ha'oretz mitochas, and on the earth below, Ein Oy, and there's nothing else. So the Rebbe asks a fabulous question. He says, leave aside this tension that we're talking about between creation and not, but just these two psukim. The first one says that you've got to know that there's God, Ein Oid, nothing else but godliness. We'll come to what that means in a minute. And the second pasuk says that you got to know that there's nothing else in the heavens and there's nothing else in the earth, on earth. So why are they are apparently different? They're apparently different statements. One statement says that there's Hashem and Einoid, nothing else. The other one says that there's nothing else in the heavens and there's nothing else on earth. And Tanya asks a fantastic question. The Alter Rebbe in Tanya says, would it occur to you that there's a separate God in the water and there's a separate God in the sky? I mean, we are a monotheistic belief system that the whole key to our beginning was from Avraham Avinu, and what did he discover? That there's one God. So when it says, know that there's a God in the heavens and a God in the earth, and the Ein Oid Milvado and nothing else but him, why does it need to elaborate that 4 psukim later when and talk about the heavens and the earth. And we can't believe that there's a different God living in the heavens and a different God living in the earth. And before we start, another very important thing to understand is what these words ein oed mean. Ein oed means nothing else. But it doesn't mean no other God. And you should know that other religions who don't learn Torah properly, particularly the Christian religion, don't understand this the way it is. When it says ein oed milvado or ein oed, that there's nothing else, we're not supposing that there's no other God. This isn't a salute to monotheism, that the Roman gods don't count, or the Avodah Zorah doesn't count. This is a different statement altogether. It's a much bigger, deeper, stronger statement. There is nothing else but godliness. So this table, which looks like a table, is a manifestation of godliness. You and I don't see that manifestation of godliness. We're not Rebbes, we're not Tzaddikim. We don't have access to this level of appreciation. You know, I was with I was saying before the shiur, I was with my friend Rabbi Philman yesterday, and he was talking to me about the vision of tzaddikim, and in general, and the Rebbe in particular, and he went through a story with a mutual friend of ours that happened to him, and because there's a sensitive side of that, I won't repeat it, but I'll just tell you very quickly from my own experience, and it's in I've repeated the story in the book on in the book on the stories that happened to our family. That my mother-in-law was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and 2 teaching hospitals had paskined that it was impossible to do anything about it. I go into all the explanation there. And the girls, my wife and her sister, her younger sister, were broken-hearted with this. And at that time, it was after the first Chof Zion Odar, after the first stroke that the Rebbe had. The Rebbe had 2 strokes, one on Chof Zion Odar, and then another one 2 years later on exactly the same day. And in between, he was defective with speech as well as various other bodily functions, but he continued to respond to the letters that Hasidim sent him. So my wife and her sister came, and in those days we did it by fax. So they came to the office and they wrote into the Rebbe tearfully asking for a bracha that their mother should live out the short remainder of her life with a minimal amount of pain and suffering, because the prognosis was horrific, and I got a call, which was very, very unusual from Rabbi Leibel Groner, who's the pathway that we had to the Rebbe, and he rang me and said, "Look, I'm ringing because a written answer isn't suitable, and I need to impress on you what happened. That I went in with the zettel, and the Rebbe read it, and he became very agitated, and he was shaking his head very vigorously, and I didn't understand what he was saying. And I asked the Rebbe, "What are you saying that she should have the operation?" And the Rebbe nodded his head vigorously, and Rabbi Groner repeated to me that he wanted to be sure because this was such an amazing response. And he asked him again, does he misunderstand, or is the Rebbe saying that my mother-in-law should have the operation? And the Rebbe nodded his head again, and that the operation will be successful. And the Rebbe nodded his head again, and he said, I'm ringing you because you should understand how different and how agitated the Rebbe was with this. So I came out and I told the girls what happened, and they were overjoyed, and they asked me to drive them to their mother, and I drove them to her parents' house, and they come out of the car and they go and they hug their mother and they're crying, and Mum, you're going to live, you're going to be all right. And she says, are you crazy? She says to Sandy, the sister-in-law, she said, that Robert is Meshuggah from now and became such a big crazy man. That's one thing, but you? And you're telling me I should not listen to two teaching hospitals, because it was St. Vincent's and Prince of Wales. They had two teams. I won't go into it now. There was a whole thing with it. And has he seen my x-rays? Has he seen my blood work? Has he seen the CT scans? Has he seen that? And you're wanting me to listen to a rabbi in New York who's seen nothing like this in the two best teaching hospitals in Sydney. So, and it's a fair argument, you've got to admit.
Yeah.
But my father-in-law, Oliver Sholem, was a very practical, down-to-earth person. He said, look, I think we should get one more opinion. Just since it's the Lubavitcher Rebbe, we should get one. And my mother-in-law said, absolutely out of the question. I'm not going into that tank. You have to go into like a tunnel, and she was very frightened of it. And I'm not doing any more tests. And this is a rabbi. What's a rabbi in New York? No. So anyway, my father-in-law prevailed. They went to see a GP, not even a specialist. Actually, Gonski's father, the Gonski of today had a father who was a GP, a very fine man. And they went to see him, and he went through the whole thing. And he said, look, I'll tell you the truth. I haven't the faintest idea. I mean, there's a doctor called Besser in Newtown who's a brain surgeon, and I've had success with him. Let's ask him. So he rang him up, and he said, I'm calling in a favor because Polly Steiner is somebody I love, and can you see her tomorrow? So anyway, he saw her tomorrow, got to bring all the MRI scans and whatever it is, and he looked at everything, and he looked slowly and carefully, and he said to my mother-in-law, look, I really don't understand what the hysteria is about. I've operated on tumours that are closer to whatever it is that was the danger thing, and there was a whole issue about whether the skin on the scalp would heal, and he said, I think that's exaggerated, and I'm ready to operate. So the next day he operated, and she lived another 20 years, right? In no difficulty from this issue whatsoever. Now, the discussion I was having with Rabbi Philman yesterday was, let's understand this. A Rosha, an evil person, wouldn't dare accept the responsibility of that kind of insistence from the Rebbe, let alone a tzaddik. So if the Rebbe is so insistent, the only conclusion you can come to is that he knew. It couldn't have been a bet. He wouldn't, if he had a feeling, that's not enough. You've got to know. And what did he have to go on? He didn't have any blood work, he didn't have any x-rays, he didn't have, etc. My mother-in-law was right. So what did he have? So our learning is that he has access to a different level of perception. Tzaddikim have an access to a different level of perception. We don't see it, like we don't hear things that dogs can hear, and we don't smell what dogs smell, and we live differently to ants, and we live differently to bees, but they all have their own system of perception and their own. Now, when we learn that Einoid Milvadoi, we are learning that everything is godliness, and we accept that we don't have access to the ultimate unity of all of that because Hashem chooses not to make that revealed to us. How do we know? What's our method of understanding this? Our method of understanding this is that there are two names for Hashem. I mean, there are many names for Hashem, but the two primary names that we're using for the purpose of this year are Shem Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Havaya, and Shem Elohim. Now, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, we learn, is the creative energy of godliness. This is the level of godliness which is causative and creative and generates all energies. It's not God, because God in himself is what's called atzmus, it's essence. And we have no access to that whatsoever. We have no access to Shem Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, but we have evidence of it. We have Giluim of it. Shem Elohim is quite different. Shem Elohim is, and there's a big argument in Torah, you should know, which name is more relevant to us, the causative creative process, or the Shem Elohim is the shield that hides revealed godliness. Shem Elohim is the same gematria as Hateva. Hateva means nature. So when we live in a natural world where we've got a table and a chair and a human being and a coat and a jumper and whatever it is, these are all separate, multiple things. That's why Shem Elohim is plural. Why is it plural? Because the different aspects of how God is not revealed, and that's what we call nature, is different in every category. It's different with stones, it's different with trees, it's different with animals. And then with animals, think about how many animals there are in the world. From elephants and tigers down to ants and bees and microbes on and what do you call it when somebody gets skin disease, whatever it is, the worms, bacteria.
Yeah.
And think about the sizes. You have 400. The current scientific story that was shown to me, you can check it on Google, is that at the moment they believe that there are 400 billion galaxies. 400 billion galaxies. Not galaxies. That's not just stars. That's whole complete systems of suns and planets. Constellations. So you have, and then you have the number of microbes on a human body. Billions of them. Millions of them, I don't know how many. And they all run around your skin and my skin, and they know what to do, and they know what they're doing. How come? So we learn that is Shem Elohim, that is Hashem in all multiple facets of how he reveals himself. On the other hand, you have Shem Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Shem Avaya, which is the force that Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'es haaretz, the force that did that. So let's learn something about that for a minute. L'chaim, l'chaim. You've all heard often the Kiddush of the Baal Shem Tov, which was nursed and developed through the Mogged of Mezrich, through all the Hevra Kedisha of the Baal Shem Tov, and in Chabad, it started with the Alter Rebbe, and we are taught this. And this is a very important, fundamental block that you have to have in your thought process about Hashem. Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'es haaretz, that Hashem created the heavens and the earth, did not happen once. It is happening every moment of every microsecond of time and space. And why? Because we learn that creation is yesh ma'ayin, as it's called, something from nothing. No causal bridge, no connection whatsoever between nothing and something. The miracle of creation is beyond anybody's capacity to even begin to understand it. We have no experience with this whatsoever in humanity or anywhere visible in any place on the planet where there is something that happens, something out of nothing, no causal connection. I quote in one of the books, I quote that my first teacher he told us that there was a story, I don't know if it's true or fictitious, that when they brought the first train into Moscow, whenever it was, how many hundred years ago, there was a short little fellow who was a big action, and everyone was saying, "Oh, how wonderful the locomotive is! And it goes on its own. The steam drives it, and it just goes on its own." And he said, "Nah, there must be a horse." And they said, "But you can see there's no horse." He said, "There's a horse." I said, "Well, where's the horse?" He said, "The horse is hidden somewhere there. But there's no room for it to be hidden." He said, "It's a small horse." They said, "But how can a small horse pull such a long train? It must be a very strong horse." "But you can't tell me there's no horse. There must be a horse." And the truth is that we need, when we talk about this or think about it or learn about it, we have the need for a horse. Yesh ma'ayin, something out of nothing, makes no logical sense to us. We have no experience of that. But we do have experience of energies which, left to their own devices, have a limit. I'll give you an example. You have, I throw Ilan a football, and depending on how far away he is, that football will either reach him or it won't. So is the football flying? The answer is no, it's not. It's resisting flight. The football is activated by the energy of my throw, but the football doesn't fly. And the energy of my throw dissipates with distance and whatever the physics of it is, until at last it falls down to the ground because there's no more of that energy in it. We learn that is an exact moshel of creation, that if Hashem were to stop the throwing, as it were, the existence would stop, the way the football stops. That in order for Hashem to be in order for us to be sitting here around a table, Hashem has got to be bringing that table into existence all the time. And if he stopped for a moment, everything would disappear. Not only would it disappear, but you wouldn't have any memory of it. It would not exist. This is not a separate existence. It's an existence which is caused by the energy of the constant creation of Hashem. When I used to teach the girls in seminary, I borrowed an example from somebody that I asked them to, and this isn't me, this is somebody taught me this. I asked them to imagine a painting that everybody knew, because I like painting. I said, imagine the Mona Lisa, and I asked them all to close their eyes and to imagine it and to think of what it looked like. And it was a lady with her arms folded in her lap and a smile, and behind her there was a road which was curving and winding. And then I hit the table really hard. And they all sat up, and I asked them, what happened to the picture that you had in your mind, right? Gone. Why? Because that picture that they were energizing by thinking about it, the moment they stopped thinking of energizing it, it disappeared. So we learn that this existence, Gashmias, is Hashem bringing this into being every moment. Now this has very strong properties, which isn't part of tonight's shir, and we won't go there now, other than to say that you must be able to follow this, that if you believe in that, then you have to accept that this entails control. That it means that everything that Hashem is bringing into being, he's bringing into being, means that he's got control on it. If, in order for this eyelash to be in this eye, and that eyelash has to be brought into being by Hashem every moment, otherwise Yeshma Ayin wouldn't happen, there wouldn't be that eyelash. So that eyelash is being brought into being, that tiny little eyelash. You have to say that Hashem has got control on that eyelash. And that's the basis of Hashgacha Pratis, of divine providence, that we learn, how we learn in Chabad, or not only in Chabad, Judaism learns that Hashem's creative process, being continuous, the inescapable conclusion of that is that everything that is in creation is being completely, absolutely controlled by Hashem. And you have two aspects to this control. One is Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, the business of creating Yeshma Ayin, and the other is that Hashem has put a curtain of nature so that you can't get at a revelation of that Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. So Shem Elokim hides the creative process. Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei is the creative process, and you need both of them. You need one to be creating the process and one to be hiding the process. And that now, as though that isn't enough, try and understand this, that we have two other perspectives that I need to explain. And the mashal for this is light. The allegory for this is light. We talk about that light is used as an allegory in many spiritual concepts to help understand it. So we have two kinds of godly light. One is called Soiviv Kol Almin, and one is called Mimale Kol Almin. There's no big deal about the words here. Soiviv means outside surrounding. It's what's called Makif. It surrounds and encompasses everything. And Mimale Kol Almin means filling from inside. So try and understand this, and this is so important to be able to get this, because you're going to need it when you want to give your God a hug. You've got to understand this, that there are two levels of godliness which apply to creation. One is an overall enwrapping of that creation, but one is the internal. Let's take an example from a body. You have a body, right? And we are used to dealing with each other face to face, body to body. You recognize people visually. You recognize their voice orally. You have points of contact, and so that's Oded, and this is Chaim Yankel, and they're separate to you. So you're looking at them with Soiviv Kalalmin, but you have to recognize that internally there's a digestive system going on. There's a blood circulation system going on. There's a breathing in and out going on. There's a separating of minerals and vitamins to nourish the body, and that which is expressed as waste. All of this factory is going on internally, and you don't see it, you don't know it, you don't, I mean, doctors probably think about it, but ordinary people don't think about it. When I look at Oded over there, I'm not thinking, what, got a pretty good digestive system. You don't see it, you don't know it. So that's the concept of Memale Kol Almin. So Soiviv Kol Almin comes from Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, and Memale Kol Almin comes from Shem Elokim, and it's different for each thing in creation. And because an ant also has a digestive system. Let's keep going with the digestive system. An ant has a digestive. Let's start with plants, trees. They take in carbon dioxide, breathe out oxygen, photosynthesis. You know all this. Make chlorophyll. Blah, blah, blah. That process is going on, but it's different plant to plant. It's different with a rose bush, and it's different with a whatever, a cedar tree that's 200 years old and has a girth of whatever it is. Exactly measured to it. It's got to have the digestive system of a tree is useless to the digestive system of a rose bush. And then if you go from the plant life to animal life, the digestive system of a snake is useless to the digestive system of a duck. And the digestive system of a duck is useless to the digestive system of a monkey. And when you go to human beings, we all have our various differences. We have people who each person is unique, as you know. You don't need me to be telling you this. And that is Shem Elokim expressing himself through Mimale Kol Almin. Now, with all of that on board, I want to explain to you why the Rebbe finds this so important. He comes back to, I've left a bit out here. I'll try and do it very quickly because we talked about Eliyahu and Avi before. There are 3 psukim. I'm going to go this very fast. If you don't follow it, just go because it's not absolutely material. But there are 3 times in Torah that things are quoted about God. One is Yisroi, when Yisroi says, he witnessed what he witnessed, and then he said, now I know that God is the greatest of all gods, and all the commentators were quick to point out that he was the Kohen Gadol of all of Avodah Zarah. He knew all about all the different gods, and he saluted that our God was the best of the gods. But Torah is critical of that, because that implies not only that there's something else but God, but that there are other forces. Now we know that there are other forces, but we don't accord them any respect because we want to deal with the axe man, not the axe. We want to deal with the wood chopper, not the axe. We're having time for that now, but Yisro is the first of those. Then there's a situation with a man called Naaman who had a skin disease, and Eliyahu and he went to Elisha. Now Elisha was a huge prophet. He was the Talmud of Eliyahu Hanavi, and he asked Eliyahu Hanavi before he died, what he wanted from him was the double portion of his tzidkas. And he got it, and he then solved Naaman's skin problem, and he says that, and Naaman then says, now I know that there's God in all the earth, there's no God in all the earth like this God. So that's the second stage, at least singling God out as only God. And then the third time is, and again in Tanakh, Rachav, when Yeshua sent in the spies, this Rachav had to put them up and didn't tell on them, didn't allow them to be captured. She had to leave a red scarf in the window, the whole thing. But the bottom line was that she said that there's nothing like God in heaven above and on the earth below, and the critics are critical of her, that although this was the best of the three statements, because at least it talked about the one God being in heaven and earth, it didn't add ein oid, that there's nothing else. And the Midrash says, what is the something else? Something else is the abyss. So you have the heaven, you have the earth, and you have the abyss. What's the abyss? The abyss is suffering, pain, all the negatives in life, which are a puzzle. I mean, if we believe in God, we believe that God's bringing everything into existence, soiviv kol ha'omin, memale kol ha'omin, He's in charge of everything, He's controlling everything. We learn that He's all good. So if He's all good, what about the Holocaust? What about those idiots walking across the Harbour Bridge last week? What about the negatives in life? And there's so many and so powerful, so strong. So the Rebbe, this is where this is going. The Rebbe says that really, that when we have these psukim that I read you in the beginning, that Ato Areso Ladas, that you should know, Ki Hashem Hu Elokim Ein Oed Milvado, that there's only one, that there's nothing else, that Shem Yud Hei Vav Hei is the same as Shem Elokim, it's one with Shem Elokim, and there is nothing else but godliness. The Rebbe explains that pasuk is talking about the Giloi Elokus at Mount Sinai, the revelation of godliness, when He appeared to 3 million human beings at the one time. That is a unique moment in history. Every other religion in history, you get people who met God and verbringed with God and was told things by God. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. We're a disbelieving people, Am Yisrael. We say It's possible, but we don't believe it necessarily. We don't necessarily believe that Muhammad met God. He might have, but probably didn't. The probability is. But you can't say that 3 million people who all experienced the Gilui Elokus at the same time, and nowhere in Jewish history has it ever been suggested that they didn't. You can't dispute that. So that Gilui Elokus that took place on Mount Sinai, that is this concept of Hashem Hu Elokim Ein Od Milvado, that there's nothing else but it, because we're talking about a revelation of God. But then the second pasuk that I read you was from Aleinu, know and take into your heart this day that Hashem is Elokim, Bashamayim, in the heavens mimal, above, Val Haaretz mitokas, and on the earth below. Ein Od. What's Ein Od? Ein Od is also not only in the earth below, but in the abyss. We'll come back to that in a minute, if I can watch the time carefully. So but there's a question with that, and this tears tears the credibility of everything we've been learning to pieces unless you stay with it. And what is it? What do you mean that there's no God in heaven and earth and in the abyss other than Ein Od, nothing else? Why do you need to separate it? If you believe what we learned about constant creation and that Hashem is creating everything, yesh ma'ayin, something out of nothing, nothing at all. What's the difference whether he's creating it in heaven or whether he's creating it in earth? He's creating it, and he's creating all of it at the one time. So if he's creating it all at the one time, why differentiate between the heavens and the earth and the abyss? Why? Answers the Rebbe, because you and I have got to understand that we have 3 levels of our relationship with our God. One level is a spiritual level. You get up in the morning, you say Moedei Ani, you wash Nagelwasser. If you have any sense, you learn some Torah or go and daven, because that gives a different tonic to your day. Your day is a different day if you begin your day by touching base with the boss. If you hug your God before you start the day, you have a different day than if you don't hug your God. Like a little kid, the little kid, the mother takes the kid or the father takes the kid to school, and the kid gets out of the car. Before she gets out of the car to run into school and deal with the school day, she comes and gives mummy a kiss or daddy a kiss and a hug. So our mindset when we deal with our God at a spiritual level is one mindset, quite different to that's Shemayim, that's in the heavens. Then you finish davening, pack up your tefillin, you go and you go into the day. Now you got a whole different ball game. Now you're dealing with every crook and every thief and every liar and every cheat and every person that wants to take advantage of you and smiles at you, and you got to get through all of that, and you got to get through all of that as a Torah Jew, as a person who doesn't lie back and doesn't cheat back and maintains a level of integrity.
Not everyone is like that.
That's where the goalpost is. That's where the goalpost is. So and you know what? When you say not everyone is like this, you're right. I'm not going to argue with you with that, but I want to tell you this. We have been a light to the nations. I don't want to go into politics. This is a Torah issue, but let me just make this one comment and then leave it. I want to tell you the whole reason that the whole world is screaming about Israel so much is because they judge us with a higher moral responsibility. We have a higher responsibility, moral responsibility, and it's obvious to everybody. And so therefore that's why they scream at us so much. But we haven't got time. The point I'm trying to make is that your relationship with the revelation of your relationship with your God is different when you're in Gashmias, dealing with the day, putting out the garbage, bringing in the parcels from Woolworths, forgetting what your wife told you to do with this and blah, blah, blah. And all of that is the static that we have to live through during our days. What about the abyss? We've got a big problem with the abyss. The problem is that Hashem gives us, and you can't say he doesn't know, you can't say it's our fault, because we've already learned that he's bringing everything into existence. That means that he's bringing evil into existence. Mm-hmm. You can't say he's not. Mm-hmm. So he's bringing evil into existence, and we learn that everything that God does is for good. So somehow or other, the evil that he's bringing into existence is for good. And we learn that there are two levels of good, a higher level of good and a lower level of good. That's a different share. We haven't got time for it tonight. But sometimes you have to smack a child, or today punish a child. In my day it was smack a child. If it's being naughty, not because you want to give it pain, but because you love the child and you want to educate it so that it goes straight, not crooked. So but that's very nice when you talk about a child and punishing a child, but when somebody's dying in pain, or we've had a Holocaust, or we've had, and our history, as I keep saying, is a river of blood. Mm-hmm. It's a gutter of blood. I mean, we talk about the Holocaust as we've had plenty of Holocausts, just as bad. Spain was just as bad.
Crusades.
Crusades were just as bad. I mean, Chmielewski. However,
What about all of this Holocaust is France? It's the same.
Okay. So we don't need to elaborate. There's been plenty. There've been plenty of this, right? So, why? And Hashem is Kol Yochel. He can do anything he wants. So he could have done it without it. So the answer is that this must be the best way. We don't understand it yet. I don't understand how the Rebbe saw that my mother-in-law should have the operation. There are certain things we don't have access to, we don't have perspectives to, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yep.
And one of the most forceful energies that comes out of bad is tshuva. When a Jew does tshuva, it's like the mashal, a little kid who's gone wrong, been naughty. He loves his daddy loves him. He's been naughty. He gets punished. He's sincerely sorry. He's crying to his daddy that he's really sorry, and he wants a hug. And he comes to his daddy and he gets the hug. Why? Because the bad that he did, or naughtiness or whatever it is recognized, it's repaired, and afterwards the bond is stronger than it was before he did it.
Yeah.
So so the Rebbe, we've run out of time, but what the Rebbe is explaining with these psukim is that why the second one is different to the first is that those three stages of heaven, earth, and darkness, evil, the abyss, are three stages in your and my lives every day, every single day, that we are conscious of our God, we are conscious of the need for the relationship with our God, but that takes three separate levels of articulation. One is when we're in our spiritual mode, one is when we're in our physical mode, and one is when we are literally doing tshuva, and they're all three great and necessary parts of our lives. So l'chaim, guys.
Robert, I just want to pass a story like the one you said.
Please.
You know Yossi.